funds, and as well as supporting students impacted by the pandemic. And as time goes on tonight, I think you're going to hear the rest of what I would like to do. I just got flashed down on the table. Thank you.
You have a timekeeper. She's going to let the candidates know when they have 30 seconds left, and then she'll do a time's up, and then you will get a little ding on a bell if you go way beyond that. So, little, just effective. Okay, thank you. Christian, you're next.
Hi, my name is Christian Brunelli, and I'm not going to go too much about my biographical details. If you want, I'm going to make a little plug. You can go to cornwall.brunelli.us. You can find out more about me than my mother knows. I just want to talk about the three themes that I kind of want to organize my candidacy around, which is being a parent, being a teacher, and being a neighbor. And being a parent, when I was a really young teacher, I had a colleague who told me that they wouldn't trust a teacher who wasn't also a parent. And being young and single, I said, well, I'll do my best. But what I learned when I became a parent is the immediacy, the urgency, and the priority that comes with being a parent. And I learned that, like, no parent wants what's fair for their child. Every parent wants what's best for their child. And that's what I kind of learned, because that's how I feel now. I don't want what just is a fair share. I want what's best for them. And what that means is that if you honor me with being on the board, if you come and you yell at me and tell me I'm not doing a good job for your child, I'm not going to see you as being pushy or angry. I'm going to see you as a parent who loves their child as much as I love mine. And however, being a parent doesn't mean that you get to have a veto over other children's education. We have a lot of parents here on this dais right now. I think we have very different views on what's best in education. And I don't think being a parent means that I get to have that veto and decide what is and what's not taught in the classroom. Which leads me to the second thing, is that I'm a teacher, and I've been a teacher for 20 years. I think I've taught almost every subject under the sun. I've been tenured in social studies, English, I have taught Japanese language, and I've ended up as a business teacher, and I teach college accounting and business law. And I'm proud to say that I, as some other people on the dais, I got the endorsement of the Cornwall Central Teachers Association, and I'm honored by that support. But I think a teacher's perspective, I see that my time is up, and I will save the answer for later. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I first of all wanted to thank the PTO and the community for coming. I know how difficult it can be to facilitate something like this, and to organize it, especially when you're given approximately 7 days to do it. So thank you. I hope tonight that the public does get to see each of us and sees what we do bring to the table. I personally think I'm a grandmother. I'm a mom. I have children that range from 24 up to 43. I have a teacher and a nurse and an accountant, and my youngest son is now in trade school, and he's doing very well. My grandchildren are great. They're not in this district. They're all over the country, and I travel frequently to see them. That's my history of family, which is what I bring to the table as well. As far as me, I was on the Monroe-Woodbury School Board for 18 years, 11 as vice president. I formed, along with another woman, a lovely woman, we formed the first special ed PTA in Orange County back in the 80s. There was definite need, and the world was quite different when my daughter needed services when it was in school. And we started to bring our kids home and put them back in our schools. And as far as what I see, I see a great district that I moved into 6 years ago. I've lived here 49 years. I want to keep it that way. And I love this community because it's small and compact, and I want it to stay that way. Thank you.
Hello. Teresa stole my opening line, so that's always tough. But thank you, everyone, for coming out. It was a pleasure to meet most of you in the lobby. I know, after a long day, whether it's, with the kids or at work, it takes a lot to keep going, so we all appreciate that. When I think about why I want to run for the Board of Education, you come up to a point in your life, or at least I did, where I thought, how can I add value? Where can I make a difference? Am I doing enough? And I didn't know where I could do that. I didn't know I didn't know where. And sometimes it just comes and pops in front of you. So I had spent a lot of time at the Board of Education this year advocating for students, and not just my student, although that's what prompted me. And as I sat through the meetings and I saw how they're run, and the work they have to do, every time I left, it would be like, you should really do that. You could do that. But I never said it out loud. And then one day, a friend said to me, you should really run for the board of ed. And I thought, there it is. And I do think that the skills I bring from the work I do in corporate world really will benefit the board and the school district. I am constantly having to balance the needs of people with the needs of business, with the needs of budget, and coming up with the solution that is fair and that is equitable and that is going to give us a good return on that investment. Also, I'm the daughter of a retired teacher, I'm the wife of a teacher, and I'm a taxpayer. And I think I see things from multiple angles, and I don't have a favorite angle. So with kids always at the front and the center of my decision making, I hope you'll consider me for a seat on the Board of Education. Thank you.
Good evening. Once I get rid of these jitters here, I think I'll give you my speech here. First thing I wanted to do is I wanted to congratulate everybody that's sitting up here for even making it this far. I think this is really good. I learned a lot, put it that way. And I wanted to especially thank Teresa and Larry for all their years that they've been on the board. I find now tonight that it's not that easy, okay? So anyway, my name is Carl Gilpatrick. I've been in the school district now for 25 years. My wife, Christine, is a teacher at the Middletown School District. My daughter, Erin, is a junior, and my daughter, Shannon, graduated in 2020. The reason I decided to run is because I think we really need to get back to education. I think we need to start prioritizing education, and I just don't see that happening. We need to invest more in the safety of our students. I see a lot of problems going on in different schools, and I think we need to bring back the respect for the teachers. The teachers deserve, and staff. I am a proud endorsement. Got the proud endorsement of the CCTA today, actually yesterday, and I am a member of the CSEA. I was 25-year member of the CSEA. 19 of those years was as the union president. 3 of those was as the vice president, and I think I can bring a lot to the school board. I know how to compromise. I think in all the years that I was the president, I think we may have had 3 grievances. One of those actually went to PERB, and I just don't think we need to see that in Cornwall School District. There's a lot of issues going on, and I think tonight hopefully we'll be able to address a lot of them. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. I'm Lori Beth Pagliata. I was born and raised here in Cornwall. I stayed in Cornwall and now raise my family here. We live in Cornwall and Hudson. I think what's important to know about me is that I'm honest and hardworking, and I have 5 children from ages 5, who's just going into pre-K this September, to a daughter who is first year college in September. And I volunteer in every way and place that I possibly can. As my kids are getting older, I have this time that I can give back. I've been watching all my life, watching people do for me. I walked through all these hallways. I did the sports. I went to the Little League. I did drama. I was in concert choir. I did all the things, and it was only because of volunteers that all these things were really there. And now I'm realizing that, and I'm looking around and saying, you know, if I don't do it, who's going to? You know, I have to be part of the solution, part of this community, to keep it going, to be exactly what it's always been to me, which is amazing. I love it here. And I hope to bring to the board my ability to work well with others. I feel that that's something that comes really naturally to me. I don't see things just from my point of view. I'm very aware that there are many different areas of every situation that I might be in, or conversation that I might be having, or association that I might be working for. And I just hope to continue keeping our kids happy and safe, and wanting to raise their family here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We are going to start, Christian, this is going to be your question to start with, and this is a 2-minute response. It's safe to say that there are many issues and budgetary lines that school board members do not control, and there are quite a few that you do have sway over. What 2 to 3 topics or issues do you believe school board members can have the greatest impact on, and what would you like to see happen with those issues?
So I think the easiest issues are the ones that don't cost money. Let's start with just the code of conduct. Our code of conduct is 67 pages long. I looked at some others in the area. I couldn't find one longer than 40 pages long. And what that means is not just like a number of pages. It means that there's contradictions. That means there's kind of loopholes, and anyone with savvy can get through it. And one of the issues is bullying. And you know what? I would want to look at the code of conduct, reorganize it, and at least for some areas, put in restorative principles, because I think that would be better, because if we put the victims' restoration first, and not just, in a sense, punishing an offender with the hope that they're going to deter them. The second thing is, I think, and really this is Teresa's issue, but I think it's mine too, we need to make it easier for special education parents to get the services that they need. I was walking on Sunday, and I had several people tell me that they have moved out of district because they couldn't get the services they needed in Cornwall, and they go into Monroe Woodbury. And if you look at their special education PTA, and you look at ours, it's really no comparison. And I really think we need to make that easier. And it's not my personal experience, it's knocking on doors and hearing that same story 5, 6, 7, and 8 times. And then my last issue is UPK. And I think that we could have allocated the money this year to basically give every person who applied at least the financial resources to do it. It would have only cost $6 to $8 per person per month. And I think we live in a generous enough and caring enough community that we can help 32 kids change their lives for $6 to $8 a month if you live in a really nice house here in Cornwall. And I think that's something that I want to be an advocate for. And I'm not the only one, but I want to take a maximalist position, because the kids going to UPK now are the ones that were toddlers when the pandemic began. And if we don't help them now, even if it's not just about helping them, we're going to be paying for it later as a district. And I think it's better to make the investment now than later.
I think at this moment, if we even look at the budget that's been created this year, it is more child-centered than I think I've seen in many years, not just here, but in other districts. We are approaching it with budgetary items, counselors, psychologists, adding a teacher at the elementary school, adding 20 seats to our UPK. The budget itself, we've kept at 0 for this board for the past 2 years. This year it will be approximately 1.2% increase. And what that increase will show are things like I just discussed, because those positions were paid for originally through COVID funds. And when those funds go, now we either have to let the people go or we have to fund them. Our children, if you read U.S. World Report recently, 4 out of every child in our country feels hopeless. That is not what I want for our children. That is not what anyone wants. So I really believe the things that we're working on right now directly affect our children. They have been through a lot. We all have. But our children have suffered. And it's not just educational, which we all admit there's learning loss, although we are, I believe, ahead of the curve. But there is learning loss. But more important, we have to spend the time, and we are spending the time and the money to help our children be whole again and start living normal lives. Thank you.
So I think one of the ways the board can really get involved or have some sway, and I don't know if it's primarily budgetary or, I mean, everything costs money, but I think we can really start to take a closer look at our DE&I initiatives, and specifically along the lines of what Christian said, being really inclusive of all of our students. I'm, of course, very sensitive to the needs of the mainstream special ed students, but when we look across the board, I think we can take a more critical look at that and figure out better or improve the ways that we make sure we're being inclusive. Beyond that, I agree with Teresa. I was there for the budget meeting. I think the board did a really good job being critical of what was being proposed and asking really tough questions to come to their final decision. And that is where I think the board adds the most value. We're asking questions on behalf of the community and on behalf of what we hear from teachers and well, students and parents. And so that's the second place we can have the most sway. I don't know what that would be for next year, but our ability to ask questions, build consensus, and come to agreement is the biggest impact we can make in terms of moving everything forward.
I think that's where we're all going to differ, because I don't believe that the board actually did enough as far as the school budget went in addressing the needs of teachers, classroom sizes, and the learning loss. I just don't believe we addressed it enough. I know we lost a lot of teachers through retirement that haven't been replaced with full-time teachers. At class sizes, there are 23 to 24 kids in each class, and yet we have schools over in Willow Avenue would be an example of classrooms that are still empty. They're using them for teachers' desks, push programs, stuff like that. So I just think that's where we're all going to differ. I just think that the board should have done a little bit more to address these issues. And the fact that when you're looking at a budget and you don't have an actual budget in front of you, that's concerning too. I mean, we don't necessarily always have to raise the taxes. We have to look. We can look at the budget and go, what things need to be there and what things don't need to be there. And that's where I think we just made our mistake this year with this school budget. So, in my opinion, we didn't go far enough. And if we had to address three things, in my opinion, that would be we have to address the learning loss. Everyone would like to tell you that there wasn't a learning loss, but Cornwall did suffer at least a 20% learning loss. And we need to figure out a way of doing that. And by losing teachers and not replacing them, that's not the answer. We have to replace these teachers that we lost.
I think so. Am I on? I'm on. Okay. I think the number one thing that's coming to my mind is, as a board, to listen to the community and to the parents and to find out and act on what is truly the issue that they might be struggling with. I worry that when things are brought to the board, I would want them to be addressed. I know it goes right into the learning deficit from the pandemic, which I also agree is a huge issue. In academics and in behaviors, I've experienced, there's, my little ones are going into school, they're happy and healthy. It's the ones that were caught in those middle years, the middle schoolers, the early high schoolers. And I would like there to be a focus on that more so. I think those kids are going to be hanging on to these issues for a really long time, and I would like those to be focused on. My other huge focus is, like others have said, the special needs available services and also mental health. We've experienced as a family a lot of bumps along the way, especially the pandemic really threw us for a loop, especially having already have issues to begin with. And I would have wanted to see my children learn through those bad times, and even when they are having these mental health issues or special needs, that the help was there, and we didn't have to fight for it or beg for it or try to finagle a way to get those extra services. Thank you.
Thank you. This is also a 2-minute question, and we're going to start with Teresa. Oh, Larry, I forgot about it.
Yeah, that's okay. I was waiting for the last, I think there's a number of ways that we can impact the budget that above and beyond the parts that we really don't have control over. First one that comes to mind is the capital project. We get 75% of it back from the state. We do not have to put those repairs into our regular budget. So that has been, all those repairs and improvements have been pulled out of the budget. Course offerings. I believe we need more course offerings in the high school, and yes, that will impact the budget. Class size. I am a proponent of smaller class sizes in the elementary school. And some of those classrooms that are quote, empty are in fact being used, maybe not for a full class, but for individualized instruction so that we can help those students that have emotional reactions to the pandemic. UPK, absolutely agree that we need to increase that. Keeping in mind, the state has imposed usually about a 2% cap on our budget. So there's only so far we can go in any individual year. We also have to look at what the taxpayer has to pay. And that is something that I think has been high on the priority list of the school board. Teresa's right. We have, in the last few years, we've kept an incredibly low tax increase. There's learning loss was not dismissed during Mrs. Argenio's presentation, and we do have to address that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I apologize again. Now we're going to start again.
It's okay. My wife forgets about me all the time.
Okay, this Christian, you're going to start with this question. Oh my God, what's wrong with me?
That's okay. That's okay. You can no problem.
Wow. All right, I have it written down, Teresa too. I just jumped it.
It's
okay,
fine.
I'm going to be good from now on. The American Library Association recently reported that there was a 38% increase in the number of books challenged in 2022 versus 2021. More than half of those challenges were to school libraries, classroom libraries, and school curricula. What is your position on book challenges in schools? And again, you have two minutes for this.
Well, specifically in this school district, there is a committee that reviews all books. And it's in every building. It's a general committee. As far as in general within our sphere, what's happening now, when I was in middle school, I read Fahrenheit 451, by Ray Bradbury. And it frightened me then. And it's kind of frightening now because I see books that people are questioning that they're the basics They're, they should not be touched. And I don't think at this point in our school system, I don't think people that yell or shout should determine how our children are taught. I am a firm believer that our teachers and our administrators, I trust them. I trust people to make the decisions for a curricula, obviously. I don't always trust the state, don't get me wrong. But on a local level, I certainly trust our teachers and our staff and our administrators to use caution when going into this trend that we're starting to see around our country. And I certainly would hope that we as a community understand that our children are going into a real world, and we have to prepare them for it. And they have to be able to read and think, and critical thinking. Those things, you have to teach basics, because the world changes so quickly. If you get too very specific, it'll change within 5 years. So I really believe that reading, when it comes right down to it, the language arts is the basis of everything. And I don't think we read enough, and I certainly don't want to see people take classics and decide that we have to change the words, which changes the meaning, or decide that that book shouldn't be in our school at all. So that's about how I feel. Thank you.
I'll be quick on this. I don't think we should ban books. I trust our librarians and our teachers to make those decisions. I know that when my kids were in middle school, I had to sign a permission slip for them to be able to read young adult. So my, sense is that we have people have access to books at the appropriate developmental age. And of course, there's no absolutes. Maybe somebody will present a book that I would think, oh, maybe we should put that in the high school. But yeah, I support our librarians and our teachers to make those decisions, and I don't think we should be banning books.
I absolutely agree with that. I don't believe that we should ban any books. My wife working for a publishing company, I put my faith in her when she grades these books and they hit the libraries, which that's what she does for a living, that they're age appropriate. And as long as we stick to that, I'm okay with that. But I don't believe that any books should be banned, because that subject's a touchy subject. Everybody says, well, let's ban certain books. Well, what books you want to ban? The ones that you disagree with? It can't be that way. So I will definitely leave that up to the professionals, which would be my wife, who actually grades the books that are in your schools, and the administration.
Can I say ditto? I agree. I don't believe in banning books either. I am also aware of the policies in place that our board has. If there is a question brought to the board about a particular book, which we all have the right to do, that's why these policies are there. Us as parents, teachers, if anyone comes across something that they find inappropriate for an age group, we have that process there. We can bring it to the board, and well, first we would bring it to the librarian, and then we would bring it to the principal, and then the superintendent, and then the board, if I understand that correctly. So there's a whole process there, just in case there is something that's inappropriate, and I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
I absolutely agree. Then there's just only one step that you left out. There's a whole review board that is in that policy also, that is made up of teachers, administrators, parents. And if and when it does get to the board level, the board also has the right to get another group together to review that book. So no, in answer to the question, I do not believe in banning books. If something is shown to be perhaps age inappropriate, talk to the librarians. Maybe they can shift it to a different section of the library. But I do not believe in banning books. Thank you.
I'm glad we all agree that we don't want to ban books. But, there are people here who have gone to the board this year and have asked to question things that are in professional development, that have questioned things about initiatives at the middle school, and that's sort of the same thing, and we should take that into consideration. The reason why it's not just that banning books is bad, is that the surest way to get a teenager to do something is to tell them not to do it. Tell them not to touch the wet paint or touch the burning candle, and get back to me and see what happens. And I trust them, but I think it's more than this. I'm not afraid of dangerous books. I'm more afraid that people will not read challenging books. And I just remember something from the early 90s, if you remember VH1, and there was a singer named Meatloaf, and they had this panel, and they said, what music don't I want my kids to listen to? And this is the mid-90s, so it was, gangster rap, heavy metal, grunge music. And when it came to Meatloaf, he said, Backstreet Boys. And everyone was surprised. And he said, what could be wrong with Backstreet Boys? And he said, I'd be just so disappointed that my kid listened to something so vapid. And I think that is kind of how we have to look at books. So this year, I was on bathroom duty, and one student came up, a ninth grader, and he had a copy of Mein Kampf that he checked out from our school library. And so I went to him and said, you know what, I'll make you a deal. You take that book back, and I will bring in 40 books on this period of history, and you can take it and keep it as long as you like. And so he took a book, then 2 weeks later he took another book. And I think that any time you get a kid to go from Mein Kampf, reading about the economic history of Central Europe in the 1920s, that's a win. Because good books will push out bad books. And if you let them, those books will kind of win out, and we don't need to tell them not to do things. There's a long history of prohibiting things actually leading to the opposite.
Okay, thank you. The next question, Christine will start with.
You're up. No, don't look at me.
It's also a 2-minute question. There were quite a few questions related to diversity and equity and inclusion and accessibility in the district. Most of them focused on race and gender. How would you address diversity and inclusion in the school district? And if you could allocate funds for your perfect diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum, what would it look like? How would you like faculty and administration to be educated on these topics? Or do you feel that enough is already being done?
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that is important to me, inclusion. And anytime there's a child in our schools who is made to feel like they don't belong and they aren't getting support that they need, we need to do something about that. I know there are issues that have happened in the middle school, and we need to go back and look at what have we done, what has worked, and what could we do better. I'm not in a position to tell you right now what the curriculum should look like or where we should put that money as it relates to teachers and staff and children. I think that's a decision and a discussion that has to happen with multiple people. But I will tell you that I am committed to putting focus on that and making sure it's a discussion we have so that all students feel safe, feel like they belong, and know that they matter, regardless of race, religion, academic ability. That I'm committed to that. That's a much longer question.
You did great. I'm glad you went first.
Am I on there? Okay. Inclusion. This was a subject that it's actually an easy one. Everyone should be included. There shouldn't be any issue about diversity, children. Everyone should be included. I just don't understand why we go down this road all the time. I have no issues whatsoever with having the clubs that we have, including everyone. No one should be ostracized because of their sex or their race or anything like that. And I just don't think these are questions, this is a question that we really need to be talking about all the time. But that being said, well, I'm gonna try to answer it as best I can, and that is that all of our children should be included, no matter what they are. So long as that person so long as the people that we're having instructing children, instructing teachers, and stuff like that are qualified. That's my answer.
Okay. I would hope that if, just like the others have said, if there is ever a situation that is brought up and someone is having an issue in our district, I would hope that it would be addressed immediately. I think we have many different, like all the different volunteering that I do. There's different types of people doing all these different things in our community. And if anyone is ever being left out, I mean, I would be the first one. I would be the first one to make sure that they were brought in. I've experienced these hallways, and you know what? They can be mean, and they can be scary. And I think that it's so important that everyone have a place to go, and that we keep our hallways, inviting. And I just know I would like. I think that's all. Thanks.
I think we all agree that everyone should be included and that no student should be excluded. Let's talk reality. The reality is, in Cornwall, as in the rest of the country, there is racism, there's anti-Semitism, and it has to be addressed. And hopefully it can be addressed through staff development. Hopefully it can be addressed through programs that we can address with the kids and work on them. And hopefully we can reach out to the families. I have yet to find someone born anti-Semitic. Somewhere along the line they learned how to be that way. No one is born racist, and somewhere along the line they learned how to be that way. So somehow we've got to not just reach out and to our students and to our staff, we have to reach out to the community. We have to find a way to do that. Thank you.
You know, as a teacher who's sat through a lot of the professional development, I don't really think that that's the way if you really want to do something about this issue. I sat through probably about 40 in my career as a teacher. What I think you need to do is you need to make the teachers feel protected to protect children. So my goddaughter goes to Eastchester schools. Just recently, last year, dismissed a music teacher who basically did a slideshow where she showed Elton John and Lady Gaga because she wanted to do it for LGBTQ Pride Month. And she was let go. And when I talked to my goddaughter, she's like, one more nice thing that the adults took away from me. She's not necessarily angry, but it's kind of resignation. And so when you protect the teachers, you are protecting the students, because I think most teachers understand that because they have some experience with one student in their careers, and they understand how important it is. But when they feel like they have to think twice, okay, about do I talk about this, do I mention this when I cover this, that doesn't come out. And then the child feels, I don't really have an ally, or I feel different, and really I'm standing here by myself. And so if you protect the teachers and you basically trust them to teach, they will do the right thing, and they will stand up for students. And that's what I think. About diversity, the key is the board policy 9240. We have a very thin thing about, you could say, non-discrimination. I've seen other districts, the board language makes diversity a priority or something to be sought out. And I think good organizations, when they look at someone, they don't look for the best candidate, they look for something they don't have. What can you bring to the table that we don't already have in our district? Because when you look for the best candidate, you get an assemblage of all-stars. And teaching is a team sport where you have complementary roles, so that every child has someone in their building that they know they can go to and feel comfortable with. And that's how I think you deal with it.
Me again, huh? Okay. Well, first of all, I think everyone here at this table has agreed that every child should be included. That's a given, but it's not happening. I can speak from experience. One of my children had a stroke at 2 years old. and she was one of twins. And as she got older and she was in school, her hearing was affected. She had some learning disabilities, a few processing things. She was great. She's amazing. She's a hero. She was my husband's hero and mine. She would come home sometimes and ask me why kids would call her stupid. And her sister would be so upset and defend her. She wasn't stupid. Half the time there was nerve damage and hearing loss. That's just one example how I saw it, how I knew it. And I have to tell you, I was sick at home. You didn't know, you wanted to do something, and there's nothing worse than when your child is hurt. Nothing. So having said that, our demographics are changing. In the country, in the state, in our county, in our town. That's the world we live in, and it's fine. We have DASA, which is a federal law, Dignity for All Students Acts, where children should feel safe in school. And they shouldn't feel intimidated, they shouldn't be bullied, but we have to provide training, but it also has to do with reaching out to families because, as Larry said, it starts in the home. We can train teachers and we can train children, but that's not going to work unless it starts in the home. And that's where parents and teachers and all the staff, every staff member, needs to work in conjunction to make this safe for our children.
Thank you. We're going to move on to 1-minute questions now. This question is for Carl to start with. What issues do you believe the school district needs to address in its academic programming, and what changes would you recommend?
Teresa, you want to go first? The academic
I was
programming.
going to ask you to repeat it again. I have to write it down. I will
Sure.
forget.
What issues do you believe the district needs to address in its academic programming, and what changes would you recommend?
So I think in their academic programming, wow, I don't know. To be honest with you, I think the school district has been, as far as the academics go, I think they've been doing a great job with that. But again, I think we need to address the learning loss that's happening there. The classroom sizes and stuff like that. So as far as the academics go, I think we're okay with that right now.
Okay, thank you. Lori Beth?
I believe I would need more information on this topic. I mean, from my experience, I see I see the arts, I see the sports, I see the academics, I see it all, like you were saying. I mean, that from my point of view, I see, I don't know what the needs are. I would sit on the board and I would understand better, I think, as having firsthand information brought to me. That's all I have on that.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
Okay, changes in program. I would like, I've mentioned this, I'd like to see a little more enrichment, maybe higher level courses, but the enrichment K-12, I think that we used to have it. The state took a lot of money away from us years ago, and we've been slowly bringing this back, but it isn't there yet. I think we also need to expand our non-college path way to go. There are a lot of kids that I think would benefit from a BOCES program, the Career and Technical Education. They walk out of that program with jobs, and six-figure jobs. So I think there's an area we need to look at also. And the learning loss, I think, is being addressed. We have support staff being brought in. So they're there, and they are working on it.
I only have a minute. Well, first of all, I think we should have BC Calculus, which I advocated for at the last board meeting. Second, I think we could create a new Visions Theater program by using community partners like Umbra Sound Stages and PRG and Storm King Arts Center, and the blueprint already exists for that, which not only would serve STEM needs because you could do the technical side, but also you could build upon a really strong arts program here in our district and actually use it and kind of leverage that to kind of deal with some of the issues we have with the auditorium at the high school. I think that we should look after more concurrent enrollment versus AP classes. I think AP is a bad model for New York because our school year starts later, but the AP exams are at the same time. And so our students are basically shortchanged time, and that means we're not using the time after the AP exam. And concurrent enrollment programs through like SUNY Orange County Community College or SUNY Dutchess or SUPA, I think are a better model that we should pursue to provide for those enrichment classes. And I think we should develop classes that teach what I would call study skills, whether it's typing, how to make a presentation, and I think that could fit into our curriculum.
I think it would be very helpful if people went online, parents, because I recently did, to look at our curriculum and our class offerings, because it's really enlightening. There are things that I would like, but again, I caution everybody, I'm one person. One person does not make a decision on a board. It's done through consensus. So I can have all the great ideas I want. I'd like to increase UPK. I'd like to get co-teaching. I'd like to bring co-teaching into our elementaries, and I'm hoping we do, but it's one person. There's a lot we can add to curriculum, but I think right now we need to really concentrate on what we're doing now with our students and give them the support they need. So yes, I would like to see co-teaching. I would like to see additional classes in academics. Thank you.
So I want to take, oops, I pulled a Teresa.
You're doing like me.
I know. Is it on now?
Yeah, no, there it is.
Oh, gosh, sorry.
got it.
I just want to circle back really quickly. I was so worried I was going to say the wrong thing that I didn't say the right thing. And when I was describing diversity, I did not mention LGBTQ. And I just want to make sure that those folks feel included in my vision or my thinking anyway, in addition. So that was bothering me. As far as it goes with changes to academic programming, interestingly enough, somebody asked a question about bringing cursive back, and I'll tell you the truth, when I first heard it, I'm like, really? And then I did some research, and I talked to people, and I think there's an argument to bring cursive back. So that would be interesting to look at it, not to for sure. And then we need to really be looking 3 years out to look at what we need. It is not what we need today, it's what are our students gonna need in the future. With Chat GPT and other things coming down the pike, we need to really analyze and plan in the long term, not short term.
He started. Oh, God. Drink some Dr. Pepper. Lori Beth. This is for you as a 1-minute question. What unique skill would you bring to the board, and why is that skill valuable?
One unique skill. I really believe that working with others is a huge asset that I have. I see that it, like Teresa said, it's not just one person. It's never just one person. There's, I find that having black and white thinking on issues does not work when you have to be on a board with a group of people making decisions. It can't be my way. I don't know everything. And I think having a clear head and realizing that, compromises are going to have to be made, and where's the right place to make those compromises, I think that would be my best asset.
First thing that comes to mind is I'm not a politician. I'm a father, a grandfather, and a community member, and I think bringing that to the board is important. I also have experience and history. Yes, I'll address the elephant in the room. I'm the oldest one sitting here at the table.
Not by much.
But I think that's an important piece that I can bring to the board is the history of where we've been, and not saying that and I have never said, well, that's how we did it in the past, let's do it the same in the future. I've never said that. I believe in sitting, listening, and talking it out. Thank you.
So, first of all, one thing that I wrote about on my website was one reason to vote for everyone else sitting here at this dais, because I can think of one reason why they're going to bring something unique to the board. I think my strong suit is that I'm a teacher, and I'm a current teacher in the high school. And I think that's important when you're going down to the end of the budget and you're making trade-off choices. And you understand, like, when you're trading off, let's say, a school counselor versus a classroom teacher, you understand what that actually means, and therefore you make the better trade-off, and you can at least provide that perspective to the other board members, so when you make that decision together, they can have a fuller understanding of that. And I think the other thing that I brought is that I have a record of doing a lot with a little in resources, innovating curriculum, moving things around, creating new programs, creating new curriculum, and I think that I can throw a lot of ideas out there that if there's an interest in them, that I can show you kind of how we did it before. And I think that means we can do things ambitious and on a budget and even revenue positive.
Well, what I bring to the board, some experience, 18 years in MW and now 3 years here. But I also bring to the board the fact that I always keep in mind how much I can learn, how much I don't know, how much I want to know, and most importantly, I think, listening and hearing, and not talking necessarily, which was always a tough thing for me, but being able to actually listen to somebody and hear what they're saying. Consensus on a board, and realizing that you're just one vote, and that your opinion is your own, but doesn't necessarily mean it's the opinion of the school district, is probably one of the best things I can bring to this board, because I'm at an age where I don't have children in the district, but I work full-time, and I am excited about school district education and children. Thank you.
So you asked for one skill. I think over my career, I've been certified in a number of training and development programs that I think would really benefit the board. They're programs about building consensus, improving communication skills, listening skills, et cetera. But I think for me personally, the skill that I would bring is critical thinking. I ask a lot of questions. I really seek to understand before I make a decision. I make connections between information, which often leads to solutions we didn't previously think of. And I see problems from all different angles, so we can, I see problems from all different angles so we can creatively solve them and build consensus around that. Sorry.
As the father of 3 daughters, the one thing I did learn is to listen. And listen and compromise. I think that's the skill that I bring to this. And after being the union president for 19 years, I believe that my skill is definitely in the realm of listening and making compromises for both sides.
Okay, thank you. Larry, this question is for you. Again, it's 1 minute. What's the greatest strength of the Cornwall School District, and how would you maximize that strength?
The greatest what?
Strength.
Our students, our staff, and our community. And how do you maximize that? You work with them, and you listen, and you move forward. I really believe that we have a strong school district because of those, everyone is involved. We have a good rapport, I believe, with our community. Yes, there are issues that arise, and they get addressed, but I really believe that our strength is our community, our staff, and our students.
This is sort of the same answer that Larry, but I'm just going to maybe give a little bit of a different emphasis. What I see in the community is a generous spirit, and I also see a commitment to education. And I think this is a community that if you try to sell education, the community will buy that argument, and that means that they are going to provide what is necessary to help the students and help the teachers. And sometimes it's just a matter of communication and finding out what that is, but I think that's where it starts. And a generous community also raises students that care about education and care about other people. And I think it also then, in a sense, the teachers as well who are part of the community. But I think it starts with that kind of commitment to education and generosity of spirit.
We've all kind of expanded away from one greatest strength to strengths. But yes, definitely. I came here 4 years ago, very strange, to retire in Cornwall eventually. I don't want to move south. I want to stay right here in a community that I felt at home. I felt that connection I wanted, the Main Street. But what I also see as a great strength here is what I'm witnessing now. Your PTO organizations in every building, all the volunteer work, the plays that are all extracurricular, all the different drama groups and plays. That connection keeps our families together in schools firsthand, and I think it's our greatest strength and one that we need to even build on to make parents feel even more welcome to come into our buildings and see what's happening.
I'm going to double down on the community answer, but I just want to provide a perspective that I think what really impresses me about Cornwall is the minute someone's in need, Cornwall and the community rallies. If somebody needs help with something or someone has a tragedy, the community rallies. You have 6 people interested in the Board of Education. You have folks showing up, for the forum. I'm sure there's much more online. The PTOs, as Teresa said, are bustling. People are engaged in the community. And the benefit of that is it really teaches our kids how to be good citizens in the future, to be engaged and care and make a difference.
One thing I did learn since I decided to run here is the involvement of the community. It's enlightening, that's for sure. But the strengths of the school district, I believe, is definitely our teachers and our staff, and I would say the parent involvement with the school districts.
I believe first would be our teachers and staff. They're the heart and soul of our schools, and my kids thrive because of them. I also think that our kids are amazing, and I think that comes from our community being amazing, being there at the forefront of everything, wanting to be involved and to help. We're a community that parents all the kids, we all have these homes that are just open for friends and family and whoever, neighbors, whoever happens to be there, and that's what's really kept me in this town, and makes me want to really put in the effort and the time and the work to continue making it great, keeping it great.
Okay, thank you. So you agree on the strengths for the most part. I'd like to hear from you what you think the greatest challenge the Cornwall School District faces and how you would address that. And Christian, it's a minute, and we start with you.
I think the biggest challenge is that we too often see ourselves as taxpayers, and not often, sometimes our other role as neighbors. And I think when you focus on the cost, you end up finding reasons not to do the things. And when you're reminded about the benefits, that's when the generosity comes out. And I think as far as our school, when you constantly refer to taxpayers and 1% tax levy increase, we should remind ourselves where taxpayers came into our political vocabulary. It came in during the Reconstruction, Southern whites wanting to disenfranchise freed people, and particularly to dismantle their schools. And when you remember that, it's not because use taxpayers is racist, but you remember that when you reference taxpayers, you're basically appealing to people's stinginess and not their best, their better angels.
I think one of our greatest challenges, you're going to find out I'm not a fan of New York State or New York State education, of the county where I live, but not state ed. My mother used to use the term a day late and a dollar short. Well, our challenge is not much different than any other district. The state is always a year late and $10 million short. We have to wait for everything and then pray we're going to get it. That's a challenge in every district. I would love, no matter who is elected to the board, my biggest wish, and I've said this in public, is that we start to be able to speak less about squeezing dollars out of the state of New York for unfunded mandates and start working more on program and children and parents and listening to kids coming in and bringing music into our meetings to show us what they're learning and doing. So yeah, money, it's a challenge.
Could you repeat the question?
What's the greatest challenge the Cornwall Central School District faces, and how would you address it?
So I think a major challenge is that I've talked to many teachers in the district, and I've gotten feedback that they often don't feel listened to, or they feel that their concerns are minimized. I can't validate that firsthand, but if that's the sentiment, that's an issue. And I think we could do a better job asking teachers more directly, what does support look like for them? What do they need? How can we better serve them? It's not to say you get everything on the wish list, but we can start by asking the questions so that we're at least delivering what's going to make the biggest impact for them and building that bridge and building that trust within the whole district.
I think our biggest challenge is our infrastructure here at the school district. We have schools that are literally falling apart inside, and we need to address them soon. We have children that are sitting in gymnasiums with holes in the floor. Teachers are actually using these, we're actually using this as we speak. These are the kind of things we need to start addressing today. I mean, the infrastructure of the schools need to be taken care of.
I see political division in our community like never before. I feel right now that that's our current biggest issue. I feel we need to keep the focus on our kids' education to give them the opportunities that they deserve to grow in their education and to be able to go on to college or BOCES and become adults without being stuck in a community that's focusing on other things.
Challenge. We actually have a couple of big challenges, but I think the biggest challenge we have is communication. Communication between the community and the board, the community and the district, the teachers and the administration, and the teachers and the board. We have to open that up a little, and we have to work on that much better. I do have to say something about the infrastructure. The community passed a bond that is addressing that. You will see that this summer. We will see major changes in our facilities starting this summer. So I thank the community for doing that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Larry did not get the questions ahead of time, but he just answered my next question. So fortunately, we're not starting with him. Again, 1 minute, and this is for Teresa to start with. What specific steps will you take to ensure good communication between the board, administration, and the community?
When I was elected 3 years ago, I came onto the board at COVID. I couldn't get to learn the culture of our district. So what I think needs to happen, I don't know. Do me one favor, please. Could you just repeat the question a little, because I have a problem with hearing over here.
Sure. What specific steps will you take to ensure good communication between the board, administration, and the community?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. With COVID, there's been a year and a half of no communication, basically. When I came on the board, it was just nothing, Zoom meetings. So I think the steps now are beginning with a new superintendent. We need to start to communicate more. I really think that that's going to happen. I feel like the past year of my term, this last year, was the first year I was able to connect with people. And I think there are other people that feel the same way. So I think that connection is probably the most important. I can't think of anything else, because there is division, but it's division everywhere, anger everywhere in our country these days. But this is our small community. We can do things differently here. And I truly have faith in the people in this community that we will.
This is a hot topic everywhere, trying to solve it where I work now as well. But I think we have to start by doing an analysis. So who doesn't feel like they're being communicated to, and what information are they not getting or they don't have access to? And so the first thing I would do is take a look at that, whether that's through a survey, whether that's through an open forum or fireside chat. But I think we have to first figure out, where are we on the continuum of good communication? Then we can go back and ask the question, how would you like to be communicated with? Do you want to watch a video? Do you want an email? Do you want a newsletter, right? And once we get a sense of what's the best way to reach people and with the information that they want, then we can come up with a plan to execute on that. But I think if we just start to, we'll do a newsletter, we'll do a TV show, we're going to miss people. And not everyone's going to get it. It's like my standard answer. Not everyone's going to get what they want, but we can at least listen and then, make decisions that meet the majority of our community's needs.
If I could just circle back for 1 second to something that was said about the infrastructure being addressed. That's not quite true. First of all, the infrastructure for an example, Willow Avenue School, that hasn't been addressed since 2016, okay? And it's not being addressed this year. Don't be fooled by it being addressed this year. That's not the case. And if you could just repeat the last question.
Sure. It's what specific steps will you take to ensure good communication between the board, administration, and the community?
Okay. Well, the first thing I think we need to do is we need to open up these school board meetings to the stakeholders. You go to a meeting. You're welcome to come to the meeting. You're welcome to speak, but you're not welcome. You're not being heard. And I think that's something that we need to address. If you just go back and look at these meetings, it's the same thing from the parents all the time. You're not listening to it. You're not hearing us. You don't let us talk. You don't give us an answer. It's the same thing over and over again. So that has to be changed along with the policies. We have to make the parents feel like when they do come, stakeholders, I'm sorry, the parents, we need to make them feel like when they come to these board meetings that they're actually being heard. And then when you ask a question, that you don't get a thing that says, yeah, I'll let you know in 30 days. And by the way, that 30-day rule, that started after I went to the meetings and insisted that we start having some sort of communication between the board and the stakeholders.
I would want to stay available and open and listen to the community. I would encourage everyone in the community to attend the board meetings and speak up. I think that's so important. And if you're not being heard, to make sure that that's also known. I would try to think outside the box. What can we add? I love Christine's idea about doing some sort of survey or reaching out to the community. Where are our deficits? Where do we need more focus on to help our community and the communication? Because I know that is also an issue, and I would like to dive into that and try to figure out how we could make that better.
Before COVID, and that's a statement that will probably be with us for many years, we used to actually have roundtable discussions with the public. We would go to the Cornwall Library in their meeting room, invite the public, and we would sit and just chat, get ideas, find out how can we communicate better, what are your ideas, and begin to bring those back to the board. I miss those, and perhaps we can start them again. We need focus groups, people getting information back to the school district to find out how we can communicate better with you. Sometimes we think we know what you want to hear or how to get it to you. If we don't know if it's effective or not unless we get feedback. So I think perhaps focus groups would help on that.
I'm always reminded of what President LBJ said about listening. He says, you don't listen to people, you listen at people. Listening is active. It means you ask a follow-up question, and the most important thing they're saying is what they're not telling you. So listen to, let's say, what the absences are. And I look around this room and I see a lot of people who are very active in Cornwall's community. But one of my experiences when I was an ambulance driver for New Windsor and I go into random homes in 4 o'clock in the morning, is you see a much broader Cornwall. People who don't have enough time, sometimes that's sometimes what we have to listen to is what we're not hearing. And one thing that just struck me, looking at the Living in Cornwall questions and then watching a lot of board meetings, is that the Living in Cornwall questions are very secondary focused. They're about class rank. They're about STEM versus arts and humanities, and these are secondary school questions. But if you listen to the board meetings, you would find that it's really heavily elementary focused about where people are talking about. And the most important thing, and one thing that I've done, and doesn't me finish, is, on Sunday I knocked on 400 doors. And when you talk to someone, one of the families who did not make the lottery in UPK, and you're talking in the pouring rain, and you're talking for 15 minutes, you really get a valuable perspective that you're not going to get in a survey or in a focus group.
Okay, thank you. This question is also 1 minute. We will start with Christine. Faculty and staff have been under tremendous pressure over the past few years. How can board members support faculty and staff, including teachers, support staff, nurses, janitorial staff, cafeteria staff, and maintenance staff?
We have to ask what support is going to make a difference. What I think is going to make a difference might not make an impact at all. But I think if we go to the folks who are under the stress and the pressure, and we ask what is going to make the biggest impact and relieve some of that pressure, we can act on that. I think that, I haven't talked much about teachers, but they change the world, and I'm not exaggerating. And so do the lunch monitors, and so do the hall monitors. I mean, those folks have had significant impact on my kids throughout the years. And so I want to make sure that they're not under extreme stress, and I want to make sure they feel supported. But we have to ask first and not just assume we know the answer.
This one should be an easy one because this has been a question that's, I've been asking a lot of the teachers and staff. I keep mentioning the word teachers all the time, but when I'm actually meaning is the entire staff, everybody that works for Cornwall. And it's a real simple answer. You can start off by giving them respect, something that we don't do enough of. The teachers get no respect, the staff gets no respect. We can start with that. The second thing we can do is we can actually start giving some of the faculty, some of the staff, like our cafeteria people and our recreation, we could start giving them a decent salary. $16 an hour, and you're wondering why signs are posted all over New Windsor trying to hire people, to work for them. You could probably start with those two things: respect and a decent salary for these people.
I think getting personal with the staff is very important. I had the opportunity in the schools during the day, but a lot of times in the evening and on weekends and before school for those extra activities. And I've gotten to know all of them. And only in conversation, a one-on-one conversation, can you truly find what's important to each and every one of them. It's the only way. I find that a helping hand goes a long way right now. I know the staff is tired and spent, and giving of my time and myself to help their day, it almost blows their mind, because I think they're overlooked. I think they're not seen. I think they're behind the scenes, and they really are what make our buildings tick, and what keep our kids safe and happy.
I think pretty much what everyone has said here is that we need to open better lines of communication. We need to understand, to be honest with you, understand where the anger is coming from. There is some real anger. There is, and there are teachers that are not angry, and I think that we need to work on that. It's not a healthy atmosphere. It's an atmosphere that needs to be calmed down, and I just think it needs to be. Best way to do it is in some cases, a one-on-one conversation. Go walk around, talk to people. What is it? Who is it? And part of the problem is the restrictions that a board member has. You cannot just go in and wander through a building to talk to people, and that becomes so we have to work that out and how to do that. But thank you.
I just want to echo Mr. Kilpatrick's point, but I want to put a number on it because I am a teacher. If I was to take a job in Cornwall, it would be equivalent to a 25% pay cut. And no one feels appreciated when they work in that type of situation. It's not all about the money, but the teachers have also had, their motivations questioned in the past year. And it's really hard to be high morale and be happy and be positive for your children when that's the situation you live in. I've always said if you want to know what's going on in the school, you ask three people. You ask the school custodian, you ask the school nurse, and the main office secretary. And they know, because you know what? When kids are unhappy, they scratch on the table, on their desk, and the custodian figures it out. And when they don't like their class, they go find a reason to go down to the nurse's office. And because they're not in the chain of command of the school, kids will be frank and honest with them about what's really bothering them. And that's why you should listen to them. Generally, teachers, we see part of this whole story. Principals always give a positive spin, but that's why they're sometimes the most important people in the building.
I think it's important. That little girl I was telling you about, my daughter, she is now a high school special education teacher. And that is the success of combination of school and parents and working together. I mention that because she was traumatized during COVID, as most of our teachers were, I believe, as our children were. When I met with the union representatives a week ago, we had a great conversation, the first one we've really ever had. This was the first opportunity I got to sit and to talk to them. And one of the suggestions I made for the future is that if I was reelected and the board agreed, again, it's the board, that we would have smaller meetings during the year with teachers, very, very informal. They didn't have to come, they can come, even if it's at a school with some soda, cookies, whatever, and just get to know each other before we get to the next contract, before there's an issue. So that's what I think.
Okay, thank you. This question will start with Carl. It's 1 minute. It was written by a 12-year-old middle school girl, and she writes, sorry?
She said, I hope I can answer it then.
She said, I feel as there are way too many students in my school who get into physical fights repeatedly and don't get strong enough punishment. So my question is, would you make a greater punishment for those who often get into physical fights and do that repeatedly?
Thank that 12-year-old for that question. My daughter experienced horrible bullying in school, to the point where when she finally got out of Cornwall, she told me it was the happiest day of her life, just getting out of here because of the bullying and stuff. Really, really sad to hear that, and to know that any child would have to go through their greatest time of their life and they just couldn't wait to get out of a school district. So I think the question was, what would I do to that? Okay, so yeah, I've seen it far too often here where a kid starts a fight and the next thing you know, and I don't know if this is a law, this is why we have Mr. Dade in the back, and Larry and Teresa can tell me this, but they all seem to get equal punishment. Because a child got bullied in school and he finally stands up for himself and he does something about it, he gets the same punishment as the child that's been picking on him for over a year. This happened to my child for 4 years. For 4 years, when I finally had to come to the school board, to the school district, and do something about it. I sat down with Neil Miller and we tried to come up with a plan on how we're going to address this and why should my daughter face the same punishment as the bully did.
Carl, I'm
I
gonna...
love that 12-year-old, by the way.
Rebecca?
I've experienced bullying on many different ways. I was bullied pretty horrendously for quite a long time growing up. I have children who have been bullied. I have children who have acted out themselves. I feel that the biggest, most important thing is going to be the follow-through and people paying attention. And, seeing something and saying something and bringing it to someone's attention is so important. And also, then, like I said, the follow-through, there has to be actual guidelines that are met and followed if these certain actions take place. If there are no consequences, the children will continue to do it. If the consequences aren't meeting their actions, they're going to continue to do it. It's just a fact. And I would definitely advocate for strong punishments, not only strong punishments, but the follow-through is really important. And what I mean by that is the contacting the family, having the family get involved, and being creative in the punishments.
Sometimes the punishment that is meted out, nobody knows what it was because of various laws. And you say, oh, nothing ever happened to this. Well, something did, only you don't know what it was. I think mentioned follow through. I think these things, these actions need to be reported. The kids need to know that they have the support around them to allow the to report the incident, and that they will not have retaliation to them. But it's more than just punishing a child. I think you need to do as much remediation as you can with the child. Instead of just saying, well, you hit him, therefore you are suspended. Why? What happened in there? Work it through. Find out what actually happened in order to make that determination of what a punishment should be.
So when I knocked on one door, I had a parent tell me that their child was on the ground and kicked in the head by another kid, and that that student was in school the next day. And I think what's wrong is that it's not about that deterrence doesn't work, punishing the bully doesn't work, focusing on the bully is the wrong focus. And that's one of the reasons why one of the key things I'm asking for is to revisit our code of conduct. And I think that's something that involves the community and teachers and the administration. And I really think if we put restorative justice principles into it, we would put the victim at the center and focus on making the victim feel made whole rather than trying to deter bullying by punishing it. Because bullies know where the lines are, they're not going to be deterred. Focus on the person who's hurt.
I know it might sound strange, but sometimes the bully is the victim as well. A lot of this starts in the home, not only supporting punishments or we have a policy that we go through with children, and if it's brought to our attention, the policy, our code of conduct and policy is always updated. Of course, it has to go strictly with the law. We have to follow the guidelines of the law. But on the other hand, children that bully are usually bullied. There's a reason people act the way they do, and the reason children do. So it comes back, as far as I'm concerned, with going back to counseling. Punishment is okay, but we've seen it with our own children. You need to find the root of the problem. Yes, punishment. Yes, you need to make sure your children are safe in their schools. And it always, to me, comes back to community, parents, teachers, and remediation with the counselors that this district is hiring and the psychologists, because we do recognize it. Thank you.
I just want to offer that my answer around teachers assumes that the pay was not part of the possible solution, because that's to be done in a couple years, not right away. Because of course I think that has to be revisited. For bullying, the question mentioned physical fights, and I think that's what I've heard too has been increasing in the hallways. And really, I don't know the discipline policy by heart, so I can't speak to the chain of command in terms of what people get. But I agree with Teresa. I think we have to look at root cause. Why are folks fighting in the hallway? And really digging into it. Not like, oh, he stole my pen and I'm mad. But like, what is it that this child, that's their solution? And we're doing a lot of work in social emotional learning, and we have folks in the district who are trained to dig down into that. And I think that we owe that to students, to help them get out of that cycle of fighting. They don't always, and then we've done our part, but I think we owe it to them to at least try.
Okay, thank you. Our last question for the night is 1 minute response, and we'll start with Lori Beth. What are your thoughts on our school district's program for special education students and gifted students?
My experience with special education is that needs to have more of a focus. I have some friends that are special ed teachers, and I understand that they are very overwhelmed and that they have many students depending on them, and I worry about them, and I worry about those kids because they need extra, and if they're getting less, that's an issue. And I am also aware in other districts that there is a lot more enrichment programs available to our kids than in our district, and I would like to see that increased.
All right, we have more and more students being classified for whatever the reason is they are. And I think we need to make sure that we have the support in place to address that. Gifted students, we used to have a gifted program that was eliminated. We had a gifted teacher that was eliminated. Some of that, again, goes back to years ago when the state actually took money in the middle of the year and took it away from us. And it wasn't until now that we're beginning to see it come back, but that's many years of lack of funds that we had in there. So I think we need to address our gifted students, no doubt about it. Some of them are bored sick, sitting in a classroom where they know that they can do a whole lot more. So that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Being a parent to a special needs child is hard. It shouldn't have to be difficult. And too often our district makes it difficult for parents to advocate and get the services that their children need. And there's a long history to this. There are people that I've talked to who said they'll never vote for a school budget because of how their child was treated. I've had people say they moved out of district because they couldn't get the services in this district. I think we actually have the services, but we have an approach that focuses on the legal minimum that a student is entitled to and not what is in the best interest of the child. And I really wish we had, Teresa Buttigieg to create, Cornwall Special Education PTO, because to have that network of support is what gets those resources so that parents know what to ask for, what is out there, what other services are there that they can get to support their child, and it really is non-existent in Cornwall.
I was a parent advocate on the Committee for Special Education for 3 years. And obviously, when I went on the school board, I had to stop that. That wasn't allowed. I think what we need to start with, I know going back to the past gives you some kind of a basis, but I want to look at today. And I think that we need to consider as a group, as a board, to meet with and administrators and teachers and the CSE and discuss what they feel is needed, what they feel is missing. They work in it every day. They're the ones who are sitting and making decisions, finding out how they make their decisions, not being judgmental. And yes, unfortunately, again, special education is almost a totally unfunded mandate. The state comes down with wonderful programs, but doesn't give us any money, and never did. Thank you.
I could talk on this for an hour, so I'll spare you, but I will say I understand the money, that's a factor, and people have to be reasonable in terms of what services a child needs. Where I want to focus, though, is on early identification and intervention. I know a whole lot about dyslexia. 1 in 5 kids are dyslexic. It's the largest population of incarcerated people. People leave high school unable to truly read. They can get by. Early identification makes a difference. And if we spend the money training teachers in the elementary ages on how to identify that, it will cost us less in the long run for special education services. I've been talking about this to the special ed team for years. We finally have a reading intervention for that, but I could go on. I just think there has to be more partnership. It can't be the minimum and the first thing out of the mouth is, no, we don't do that. There has to be some conversation and meeting in the middle to meet the needs of kids. I'm sorry, and I think for enrichment programs, we have to come up with some creative solutions. I mean, it's not like one end of the spectrum is more important than the other. So I think that, that's certainly worth exploring more.
So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know everything the kids need for special education, but I will tell you that I have listened to Christine over the last few months at the school boards, actually probably close to a year now, advocating for our children with special needs. So she's the expert in it. I'm not. And what I will say is, just after listening to her speak about it over the last few months or years, whatever they need, then I think we should be giving it to them. There's no reason why we can't do it. You get 30 seconds, okay. So as far as, we had a child come in not too long ago for advanced AP calculus. Such an impressive guy. He wanted that. Unfortunately, the school district couldn't give it to him. But I think that these are things we need to address. If anyone has a chance, please listen to this child. It was really cool. I mean, he came in and he said, hey, I want to learn more. And we just couldn't provide that for him. And I think that's something that we really need to address.
Okay, thank you. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes for closing statements, and once again, we're going to start with Larry.
Well, thank you. I think one of the things that I heard tonight is there's a little misconception about us getting back to education. We have the highest graduation rate in Orange County. There's something to be said about that. So there's somewhere in there we are back to education. I don't think we ever left. A lot of our issues that we've talked about tonight, when you think about it, all revolves around dollars. Can we afford to do this? We are the second lowest cost per pupil in Orange County. We're the fourth lowest cost per pupil in the 43 surrounding districts. Now that's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, isn't that nice? We don't have to pay that much in taxes. On the other hand, what we've heard tonight, most of what we've heard tonight could be addressed if our tax rate was higher. And that goes back to the community. And now the problem is with the state, because we can't go above the 2% tax rate. It varies depending, but we use the 2% rate as an average. I think if we, going back, we could address our special ed needs at an early stage, and it would save us money in the long run. You're absolutely right. I would love to see the community come together, find a way to expand our programs, all our programs, and all our needs. The one time we tried to go above the tax cap, it was voted down. So we need to know if that's going to be a viable option at some point, so that we can address the needs that everybody's been talking about tonight. Thank you.
We've talked tonight a lot about some of the concerns or things we want to improve or things that we care about, but the question really is, who has an idea of how to maybe start to approaching that? There's a way to deal with bullying. We can look at our code of conduct. There's a lot of room for improvement, and I think that's one way we can do that. On my website, I talk about UPK and what it would cost, because I think when you go to the people of Cornwall and you say, look, this is what it costs, 1 Starbucks order per month per person to fund for the 32 students, okay, to provide that funding. That's doable. That would have happened under the tax cap this year. How are we going to deal with, special education? What is the issue? I think we have a lot of programs and a lot of teachers. The problem is those teachers aren't necessarily getting to the students, and parents aren't navigating the system. So we have to think about not just here are our problems and do we feel bad about them, but what are we going to do concretely to address them? Because otherwise these issues are going to come up year and year and year, and we'll feel bad about them, and they're not going to get fixed. And so it's not because I think I have all the answers, but I'm throwing things out there so that, hey, you can keep me accountable, because this is what I said I would try to do, and I'm going to advocate for that. And I'm going to listen to people, and I'm going to try to organize people behind some of these issues so that things can get done, because I think that's how you can make change. And I learned that from a teacher who taught me how to knock on doors and showed me how to talk to people, and how I had a conversation on Sunday where someone told me they're not going to pay taxes ever again, they don't have any children in the school, and then I made a value proposition. I said, look, I want to have adult and continuing education, because I think all the people in Cornwall who are not engaged with the school district, they need to be offered something. And then when they come into our schools for those adult and continuing education programs, they see the state of the facilities, and they say, you know what, we need to do something about this.
I'd like to just end basically by saying, first of all, I have probably more questions when I leave here tonight than when I came. Maybe that's a good thing. My head's spinning. When I leave here, I'll think of all the right answers and say, why didn't I say that? So having said that, I have to say, as far as board meetings, I have to go by this year because most of the others were Zoom before this past year, kind of normalcy started. Our board president introduced many changes, but in order to hold a school board meeting, there's a lot of business you have to get done. And when questions are asked, most districts do not give two opportunities, and we do, one at the beginning and one at the end. And when parents or anyone, staff, comes to us, it's true, we normally do not answer the question at that time. But frankly, we normally don't necessarily have the answer. When the board president asks people specifically, can I have your email address? Can I have this? And I know he gets back to them. So there has been very positive changes, more trying to reach the community. As far as our school district, as I said, I think I just have lots of ideas, but it's a group. It's one person. But I think that's important because whoever you elect to the school board, I ask them please to keep in mind that you're a board member just at the table, and you don't make decisions for the district, and you're very limited as to what you can do outside of the district. You represent the school district. It's a wonderful school district, and it can improve, but I think we have a really good basis here. And I hope we just keep moving. Thank you.
So I just want to start by saying I don't think raising money makes things easier, but it's not the only way to get things done. And I think we can apply critical thinking and be a little more creative in terms of services we provide, whether that's to special ed kids or to gifted children, all around. We just have to think differently. With that said, I didn't come into this campaign saying I was going to do this or going to do that or going to implement this. I don't have all the information. I don't have access to all the facts or all the background information or what's already been done. So that wouldn't be fair to you or to me. What I did come in saying is I will advocate for students, teachers, and taxpayers. And that is a constant balancing act. When we look at it, students, they're the center of everything. Whether you're a parent or a taxpayer, they're the future of our community. They're important. Taxpayers, listen, I'm not stingy, but I don't want to be paying taxes out the wazoo. I want to be reasonable, right? And I think trying to look at the budget carefully and critically is not being stingy. Thirdly, I'll end on this. We are so lucky in Cornwall because at least for me, we have amazing teachers, really. I mean, not all of them are perfect, but they're pretty darn close. And they have made such a significant impact on my children's lives. And many of them have even helped me be a better parent. So I think when you think back on your years of school, it's unlikely you're remembering the exact lesson they taught, and more likely you're remembering the way they influenced who you are today. So whatever we can do to support teachers and to make their jobs more efficient, I think that's a big focus that we need to look at because it will benefit taxpayers and it will benefit students. I would be honored to serve on the board, and I hope you'll vote for me.
First, I don't think we're doing enough to address the educational problem that we have here. We hired one teacher and we lost 3. I know people don't want to hear about raising taxes. Unfortunately, that's coming. It's coming. We've had problems going on here for years and no one's addressing them. Again, I'm going to get back to the infrastructure of our schools. Since 2016, we've had gymnasiums that had holes in the floor. We have yet to address that issue. How much do you think it's going to cost us now to repair it when it comes? Because it's coming. It's coming, and it's probably going to be over $400,000 or $500,000. Okay, so these are the things we need to start addressing. I know nobody wants to hear taxes going up, but they're going up. It's going to happen. Okay, as far as the teachers go, again, we haven't hired enough full-time teachers. We lost teachers. We have to replace them. We have to do something with the overcrowding in the schools. Everyone is afraid to address that issue. The bottom line is it has to be done. If you have overcrowding in the schools, what are you going to do with these kids? 23, 24 in a classroom? I mean, that's where we're at. And so this needs to be taken care of. And please, you know, it's a passion of mine. It's not out of anger. It's passion. I want to help the board address these issues. Again, I just don't think that, and in fact, I don't think we reach out to the teachers enough. I don't think we listen to the staff. We're lost, and we need to get back on track.
I believe I can keep our kids at the forefront of everything that we're doing here. I see the board works tirelessly. It looks like a really hard job. The teachers are working to make our community run as amazing as it does. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of diligence. And, you know, I feel like it's very difficult to answer questions on matters that, I think Christine said it, we don't have all the information on. I think I'm a logical person that while sitting on a board and having all the information in front of me and being able to ask all the questions and actually get the answers that I need in order to make up my mind on a decision, I think I can do that. I think I can do that and excel at that. I want more than anything for our school district to run smoothly and effectively. I would do anything to make sure that happens. I want my little ones to enjoy the same life that I enjoyed and to make it even better. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. On behalf of the PTOs, I think we really appreciate all of your thoughtful responses tonight and for being willing to participate in tonight's forum and also to be willing to run for the school board. You're all very brave and passionate, and it certainly comes through. And thank you to the audience for being here tonight and for submitting your questions. Remember to vote and bring someone or two people with you to vote alongside you. Good night, everyone.